We totally are underestimating how agentic world is reshaping entire cybersecurity to voice assistants talking to each other in a completely different mode of communication, totally abandoning human language.
What are people underestimating about the threat surface when autonomous agents are more prevalent?
Memory poisoning. Agent typically trusts its memory, but the goal or the context itself has been changed. Any model is susceptible for those kind of tricks.
How do I monitor this behavior and can I audit this? In 2025, it seems like everyone just want to talk about agentic AI. So this week we have Mohan from Box. He runs production security there. We spoke about what is the transition from LLM to agentic AI that's happening everywhere. We also spoke about the top 3 AI agent security threats that exist in production environments that people should consider. And how do you monitor and detect some of the changes that are happening in AI while AI seems to be walking and running faster than you are? So all that and a lot more in this episode with Mohan Kumar from Box, who's a production and security person there. If you know someone who's working on securing AI agent security, definitely share the episode with them. They'll definitely find it valuable. And in case you are here listening to this episode of Cloud Security Podcast for a second or third time, I really appreciate if you take a second to just hit the subscribe button. Even if you are on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, LinkedIn, we're everywhere for audio and video, whichever your favorite platform is. I would really appreciate if you take a second to just hit the subscribe button. It helps more people discover us and get more guests like Mohan as well. Thank you so much for your support, and I will talk to you next episode. Peace. Hello and welcome to another episode of Cloud Security Podcast. I've got Mohan Kumar with me. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Hey, thanks, Ashish. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited for this conversation. But actually, before we start, could you share a bit about yourself for people who may not know who you are so they get some context about your professional journey?
Hey, I've got over 14 years of experience in cybersecurity. Currently, I work for Box. Prior to that, I worked for organizations like Morgan Stanley, CN, Bell. And my journey into cybersecurity came in after my master's in security back in 2011. And since then, I'm working in the same field. I'm really passionate about solving problems in cloud security, especially around like containers. And in last couple of years, my interest is been into AI. Me and my friend Naveen, we put together a course in Udemy on a security bootcamp that gained more than 1,800 learners so far. We did actively spoke at several conferences, and really passionate in learning how AI is reshaping the world and the intersection of AI and cybersecurity. And also, as we are deep diving into agentic era where we want to give more autonomous functions, autonomous actions to AI. And I'm really curious to see how we gonna improve cybersecurity within agentic workflows. Yeah, that's pretty high level.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. Because I was going to say, even before the call, we were talking about Kubernetes. So I'll definitely take some more insight from you on the Kubernetes side someday as well. Talking specifically about AI agents, and I know you and I kind of spoke at B-Sides SF as well. You had a talk there. LLM application is an interesting, I guess, it's an interesting era, let's just say. How do you define AI agent? And is that what typically people mean by LLM application, or is LLM application different to an AI agent?
Yeah, typical LLM application is different than an AI agent. So think of more LLM application as a one-shot response to a prompt. When ChatGPT was rolled out a few years ago, so we can consider that more as an LLM application where we ask some question and then LLM reasons and then gives back some answers, right? So it's one-shot response, and it doesn't have access to external tools or APIs or anything. It's just one model that thinks through and gives some answer, and it cannot make autonomous decisions or any actions on our behalf. But whereas this AI agent, in contrast, they are pretty dynamic, they're goal driven. So when I say dynamic, it just doesn't follow a fixed workflow or anything. It just adapts during runtime based on what's happening. Usually the agent is mainly we would say, like, we can think of 3-step processes. You give some query to the agent, and then the agent thinks and then acts, and then
Yeah.
does some observation on how things are going, and then it ends the process. So this is like super high level 3-step process for how agents work. And then there will be an orchestrator who is helping to get this task done, whether it is connecting to external tools or connecting to other agents, because these agents are solely trained to do one particular job. And then if we want to do another job, for example, hey, I want to write a research paper. So research is something that needed at the beginning stage, and then
Yeah.
we need to do more on the writing. So there will be two agents. One is specialized on research, and then the second one will be specialized on writing. So these two agents is gonna interact, communicate, and then get the job done. So right, if it's writing a research article is the end goal, it will be solely focusing on that, getting all the things needed, like constantly doing this 3-step process: think, act, and observe process.
So then, what's the? I guess to your point, then LLM application people normally are trying to talk about a chatbot kind of a thing. AI agent sounds like could be a multi AI agent in that context, which is basically making autonomous decisions, or autonomous agent or agentic AI, as people keep calling it. Now,
Yeah.
I think a lot of times, every I talk to security people, a lot of us are in this two camps of one is we are prepared for this AI threat world because our so and so vendor told us we have a coverage across the board. But I think one that I found something really interesting in your talk, and obviously I'd love to hear from you as well on what are people underestimating about the threat surface when autonomous agents are more prevalent, and what would change?
Yeah, it's totally a great question. We totally are underestimating how agentic world is reshaping entire cybersecurity. As you might have listened to Andre Karpathy's recent video where he talked about software 3.0, right?
Yeah,
Software itself has not changed for over many years, and
yep,
then recently it iterated twice, and he referred clearly, hey, we are at software 3.0, where more the English language or prompts are becoming the new software, right? And
yep,
as we look at the GitHub's things, right? So definitely, as we look at from that holistic approach, if the software is changing, so do the cybersecurity as well, right? Like the way we secure them also has to change. So that's why I kind of feel we are kindly underestimating. I also, brought up a video clip that went recently viral in our talk, which showcases like, hey, two voice assistants talking to each other in a completely different mode of communication, totally abandoning human language. It's more like in Star Wars movie where we see R2D2
yeah,
style
yeah,
chips, right? So totally, that was funny on the surface though, like, but it highlights a serious point. Security teams might not anticipate that AI agents could create unseen channels or behaviors outside the normal bounds, right? It's a
yep,
reminder that autonomous agents behave in unexpected ways than traditional software
yep,
wouldn't. Those two voice assistants, they just figure it out on the go, and they're making some actions which is totally not in any of the security checklist, right? So because
yeah,
we've been trained to hey, monitor these channels, but then what are the covert channels that they are coming up with? It just emerged right now, right? So these are some of the things that we should be carrying more, and also constantly check, hey, what are the failure modes that could lead to an organizational risk or a cybersecurity incident, right? So
yeah, yep,
thinking through these processes are not there yet, and that's one way I call, hey, we still need to think through all these new attack surfaces, threat vectors that's coming up in our way. So yeah, again, I would say this is like a new class of things that are coming up. So the video that I played, in the talk, yeah, for anyone that, for the context, if you can Google a assistant talking in Jibber-link mode, you'll be able to find that video. That's super funny, but then it gives a good food for
Yeah, I
thought.
think Jibber-link mode was something new for me at that point in time as well. Talking about threats, what are the top three threats that come to mind, which you're finding? Obviously, whether you're directly working with AI workload or looking at AI workload, there is the whole OWASP top 10 for AI agents.
Yeah.
But what are the top three that keeps coming around you when you look at the whole AI agent threat landscape? Because you're the whole, I think you're obviously a huge component of your messaging has been around the whole threat modeling for AI agent security.
Yeah.
So, what are the top three threats that come to mind, which probably most enterprises maybe are thinking about or maybe not thinking about?
Yeah, I think when we think, as we deploy AI agents, right? So basically, most of the agents have three types of memories. One, long-term memory. Second is short-term memory, and then third, entity memory, where it just stores some level of entity, hey, tied to a person or an organization. So most of the AI agent framework, like Crew AI, will have these kind of three memories where it stores all the context, conversation, past history in making decisions. So tying back to the top three threads, right? Like, I would say memory poisoning and manipulating this context will be very crucial threat, given these
Yeah.
can alter the entire decision making process and unauthorized operations. So basically, when I say memory poisoning, it just involves in exploiting the three kinds of memory that I laid out, and the context manipulation is involving the agent's context window. So because every agent has is working through a step of processes, and during that it has some context to work on, and if we could alter those context, then it's gonna be doing things in a different way. I can gives a rough example. Hey, what if an attacker is able to inject malicious information through indirect prompt injection? So usually these memories are, and sometimes they rely on RAG pipelines where a whole bunch of knowledge based documents are in there, and if we are able to poison them in an indirect through indirect prompt injection, they can influence the AI agent's future actions to cause unintended behavior. I consider this as high risk for a agent, because agent typically trusts its memory because it's its own memory, and every time it makes calls to these LLMs, it has to send whole bunch of context that is grabbed from this memory, and send together, package them in a system prompt, right? So it just trusts its own memory, and if its own memory is being corrupted, then if it's compromised, then it's just like, hey, always agents thinks, hey, I'm just doing the job that I'm intended to do, but the goal or the context itself has been changed. So that's why I see this as a serious threat.
Yeah, fair. What about
And
the other two?
so the other two will be misusing the tools. As you see, MCPs widely being becoming a new standard
Yeah.
when connecting between tools. So when I say tool misuse, right, like trusted users and agents interact with the dangerous external world. So it's essentially, that we can bring in different kind of root MCP servers or tools that are talking to the trusted agents. So the attacker can exploit these workflows and the processes. Basically, again, coming back to um, using indirect prompt injection again, is a way to abuse I mean, one example can be, hey, I rely on a copilot that is, I rely on a copilot that has access to calendar tool to book my meetings, right? So this is a simple workflow. So what
Yeah.
if an attacker are able to abuse this processes and like misuse the tools? Here the tools is a calendar. So instead of
Yeah.
sending a regular calendar invite, because think of it an agentic workflow where, from again tying back to the three-step process, right? It has to think, act, and then observe. So you give a task, hey, go book this meeting with Ashish
Yeah.
for on July 30th 10 a.m., right? So it has to think through the goal, and then it has to make the plans. It has to call, in terms of action, it has to call my calendar and then your calendly link, and then it has to check for your availability and then mine, and then eventually book, and then it has to observe and wait for your confirmation. So these are the workflows that are done. If we can take this in a malicious way, we could misuse the same calendly, calendar tool to
Yeah.
exfiltrate even data. Hey, can you grab other calendar invite, right? So there are multiple ways that we
Interesting.
could misuse the tools if there are no proper permissions laid around, or if there are no context, or there are no minimum time set for
Yeah.
these access. So basically we have to scope, like a minimal scope with short duration as much as possible. And then if there is like high risk action, there has to be like a human in the loop involved. So
Fair.
this is what I would say, like, to misusing the tool.
What about the third one then?
Yeah, the third one will be more the privilege compromise, right? Like, more, it's not tied to like agents or anything. It's common. We have to follow the least privilege principle. Even with recent rollout with OpenAI's agent, I wrote a post saying thing, hey, yes, it is too exciting to go try, and but we have to ensure we give only the minimal number of tools that it needs to perform the goal. So again, privilege, least, following the principle of least privilege will be my third one. And from a threat standpoint, it's compromising the privilege. So mostly, this is through the misconfiguration in the agent. An attacker executes queries in RAG databases to access files and data that it shouldn't be able to access. So this privilege compromise will be a huge threat, and that is commonly applicable for any security world, not just specific to AI agents.
Yeah. Okay. But to your point, then, so now that we have your poisoning covered, we have tool misuse covered, we have your access covered. In terms of just aligning this back into an organization, because obviously organizations typically have, hey, we have an instant response or we have some kind of capability. How do you monitor for this? Because I think in my mind, as you kind of shared all of that in terms of what some of the mitigations are as well, the first thought that I had was, okay, how or what are you using, which is in the quote unquote traditional, it sounds very weird to say, the traditional security tooling that we use today that covers for this unless I have a proxy that just basically scans the entire internet, or sorry, intranet, for what is doing what, and basically hopefully have a way to seam through it. How do I monitor this behavior, and can I audit this? Because obviously you guys had a whole demo and everything, especially working in the AI space. It's not just worthwhile clarifying. It's not just Chat GPT and Claude, but there's like all kinds. So like Notion AI was an example that you guys had. Most third-party services these days have traditionally, and I use the word traditionally very loosely. Um, we used to be able to monitor for logs, pick out the fact what is an incident. When it's an AI agent, and to what you kind of shared, memory poisoning, tool misuse, I guess permissions kind of, there is some kind of auditing to an extent in a cloud environment. You can look at AWS, Azure, they all have audit logs. CloudWatch logs, I guess, in AWS, or similar logging in GCP as well and Azure. What is the, I guess, as a security engineer looking at this problem, that great, I have these threats, but what are some of the ways I can audit this or monitor this for when an agent is misbehaving?
Yeah, it's a great question, Ashish. I think from a monitoring and mitigation standpoint, again, like tying back to those IM roles, the problem here is AA agents do like a lot of shifting roles. They shift between multiple roles. It's just ensuring there has to be, granular access control, which means getting into more granular as much as possible. And when the identity shift, those log has to be in place, right? Because it is possible even during the time of investigation, it's very hard to know like who did what, those service accounts involved. So I would say, we have to, regularly, sanitize the memory routines and then take snapshots for forensic analysis from a monitoring specifically. Hey, how can I, look for anomalous behaviors? And even we could have some secondary agent who, that can help in monitoring, that can follow the behaviors, because it has to, over the time there has to be some baseline said, hey, for these kind of goal driven actions, these are the new norm, like baseline. Hey, has to call these tools only if it's calling some external tool, because agents are dynamic, and then if they are blocked in something, they're going to do something, some other work. So constantly looking on what are those anomalies. And definitely it is tricky, especially that the one that we will cover, that we will talk more, is on the alignment faking threads, right? So where
Yeah.
it's super hard to, to figure out those issues. I mean, even Anthropic has research going on in that particular issue. So in terms of coming back to mitigations and monitoring, I would say like we have to have implementing these memory content validation, session isolation, and we have to continuously monitor how, the reuse of sessions, and having a robust authentication mechanism for specific to memory access. And that could be crucial. And then again, anomalous detections, yes, the traditional software, I mean, the traditional tooling today is not gonna fully flag these all the behaviors. So that's why we need more of these, either in-house or from vendors, that can dynamically listen and observe the actions and flag the risky operations. So that's one way I see as a mitigation. And then from the tool misuse, again, like we have to scope those access tokens to the minimal tools. And then we need to have some auto confirm, like, I mean, we need to have some level of human authorizations for doing some high risk actions. So those will be all from a mitigation layer. From a security operation side, we have to leverage more on the secondary AI agents who can continuously sit on the side. Hey, this is an assistant, like not an assistant. I'm an observer for the main agent, right? So that sort of AI agents can be deployed. Again, a lot of AI agent projects are still in experimentation phases,
Yeah.
and only very few got into productions. And again, say putting AI agents in production is too hard, not only from an implementation standpoint. It's mainly on the trust and confidence that organizations has is super low today.
Yeah.
And again, this area has to evolve from a monitoring angle, so that we can have more confidence in especially being prepared for these all kind of unknown behaviors.
Do you find that? I think it's an interesting thing that you mentioned as well, because I almost find that people are not even aware of what an AI agent architecture looks like today. What would be an example? Because to your point about the threat modeling part, maybe they could have found the information about the memory poisoning, all of that. It sounds great in theory, but people don't even know what the structure is for an agent architecture as well. What does that look like for organizations?
So for organizations, it's mainly, some of them might be relying on some agent frameworks like Crew AI is one of them, and then
LangChain is
Hugging
another
Face
one.
have, yeah, yeah, and Hugging Face has its own. It's mainly when we say agents, I would say it's like a six major component involved,
The six-page
and
component.
yeah, and yeah, let's break down first what those components within AI agents, and then we
Yeah.
can see what are the threats in those each component, how we can threat model. These agents exist because they are trained to do specific goal very good. So that's
Yeah.
why even we have multiple agents, right? Why we do not connect whole bunch of tools in one agent, right? We do not need to do that because if you give so many tasks to same LLM, it will not do a great job, right? It has to play the role that it intends to, and then it has to train on that particular role over the time to have great work done. So the coming back to the six major components for agents is the role playing is one part. Then it has to focus, that second one, and then it connects to different tools, the third component, and then the fourth one is the cooperation. So they have to cooperate between all these things going on. And then the fifth one will be guardrails, which is a blend of more operational guardrail and as well as security focused guardrail. And then the sixth one will be memory. So these high level components make an A agent. And when we do, threat model these agents, right? So there are, various frameworks that can be adopted. So OWASP top 10 LLM applications and agentic AI is a great list. And then agentic AI threat modeling framework, which is dubbed as MAESTRO by the Cloud Security Alliance, is a great one. It's a 7-layer threat modeling approach specifically designed for agentic AI that guides us through considering threats from the model to the agent ecosystem that I just referred. And then security teams can use that as a blueprint to systematically analyze where controls are needed. So the 7-layer within the master framework are our foundation model. Number one, they are the core AI models, right? It can be like GPT 4.0 or custom model. And then the second one is threats looking at the data operations, the data used by the agents, including the memory storage or processing, and then the vector, RAG, embeddings, etc. So these are the things where the data is coming into the workflows, and then agentic framework themselves, which again the framework that we just discussed about the crew A or Hugging Face, and right. So again, we have to specifically focus our threat model within the frameworks because those frameworks helps to create the agents and the interactions between them. And then coming back to deployment and infrastructure, because although you know every AI all the best, but towards the end it is being deployed and an underlying infrastructure like servers and containers and the Kubernetes workload. So this has to be looked as well when we talk about securing AI agents, because underlyingly these are the things that host these frameworks, and facilitates with tool calling, etc. And then evaluation and observability is another layer within this master framework. That includes the systems used to monitor, evaluate, debug agent behavior. So you needs to have this continuous observability and evaluation. So this is kind of more that kind of tied back to some sort of monitoring aspect as well.
Yep.
And the sixth layer of the maestro is the security and compliance, where all the security controls and compliance are in place. And then the seventh layer is the entire agent ecosystem, that includes how the multi agents are interacting. And and because, like, think this more as a team, right? Like, we at an organization, different org is structured in a different team level, and then each team members has to collaborate between each other the same way these AI agents has to collaborate with each other. And then there will be conflict too, right? So there
Yeah.
will, as we have human conflicts within a team, the AI agents might also have conflicts, because they are waiting on few things from one agent to other. And then there are like several failure modes that can happen, conflicts. So these also has to be threat modeled to see what are the ways that things can go wrong. So I would say, to sum up, we at this point we are at an early stage on focusing on threat modeling.
Yep.
The AI agents, I would say, like, using Maestro framework as a blueprint will help. And also the going on the top 10 AI agents from OWASP, trying to fit in between different ecosystems, especially in the orchestration layer, and then the memory layer, and the LLM. And most of the times, the prompt injection is what we see as a
Yeah.
huge threat. That includes like indirect prompt injection as well, because even in like with recent, like, there are like couple of issues that I recently read about, are AI agents giving away Stripe tokens, and also leaking account credentials. So these are, most of these things that are being exploited in wild is through some level of prompt injection and indirect prompt injection, and also leveraging these security loopholes in current MCP implementation. So those are the ones that we really want to threat model on, and ensure that these are not just following the standard configurations.
Yeah, I think as you mentioned that, because I think I had a conversation with the Maestro thing, because I recently released, for funny enough, on LinkedIn, I did like a whole post on the 7-layer, because I got inspired with the OSI layer coming from a network security background. I made this 7-layer Gen AI stack, and it's funny to what you called out, and I think Maestro's framework applies to that as well. But I kind of went into the whole user interface, the query, the layer, the model layer, all of that as well. So I'll leave a link for that as well for people to check out. But what you kind of called out has been an interesting, I guess, insight into what an AI agent architecture would look like and where threat model applies. There are obviously many more layers to it, and that's kind of where I definitely find a lot of people are spending a lot of time in terms of where you find people can start building capability. Because every time people hear that there is a leak of credential, it's not OpenAI or Claude, right? Or is it a mix of open source LLM model? Because I almost feel when people say that, 9 or 10 times, I always find that they're referring to an open source version of LLM model, or an AI agent that is open source based on, sorry, an AI agent that is based on an open source LLM. Is that true, or is that found in OpenAI and Claude and all of that as well? Because I would think people would not even use these products if that was the case, right? And the reason I use those two specifically, because they are the two largest providers. And I think a lot of times when, like, even the examples that you guys went down with this as well, and I don't know if it was intentional not to choose ChatGPT or Anthropic, but Anthropic Claude, is it fair to assume that a lot of the vulnerabilities that a lot of people are talking about in terms of AI agents are on open source, like the ones on Hugging Face and etc., not on Claude or not on OpenAI?
No, I would say, it's a vendor agnostic at this point. Like, all the models out there can spill, credential leaks, because, like, there is something called grandma trick. I don't know if you heard the
No, I
word.
haven't.
Yeah. So, any model is susceptible for those kind of tricks. For example, you can say you can pretend to be a grandma, like you can tell the model, hey, tell I'm an old grandma, you just tell me a story, or make me sing a song, with one letter each, and then where you can tie back to those past conversations. It's more, even the models are, you know generally they are non-deterministic in nature. So no matter if it's OpenAI model or Claude model, most of them, because there are few guardrails at the model layer, but they are just basic, right? But it's always possible to trick the model, because even they model themselves have some self consistency bias. So you can easily trick them, saying, hey, we are in the middle of the process sometime back, can you start from there? Or it's easy to trick those models in a way, they can get into those bias nature and follow the things that you would ask for. And then over the time, the credential leaks are pretty common. Like, you can even ask for some Windows operating system keys in a different ways that it will still spill to you. And we can easily convince these model, irrespective of those foundations, is it from OpenAI or Anthropic, because of the nature, how they react. And also, these agents use MCP, and there is a flag in MCP that has sender identification. So the sender
Mm.
identification, if you set to true, uh, you know, it will just try to think, hey, it's just the owner is saying to me. Rather, it won't even be able to differentiate between who is initiating the request, where is the origin or the source of that particular request, because that's where these all the access control and all the relevant granular permissions comes in. Because if there are not set of defined those granular stuff, then you can still pretend to be a trusted user, and they will completely obey, and then spill out the things that are needed.
Yeah, I mean, I guess you kind of summed it up with kind of the conclusion that identity is still the biggest thing that would probably either hold you back or might become the reason why your AI agent may leak credentials. I think prompt injection is obviously one method of doing it, but at least to what you're calling out, there potentially is a route for most LLM providers to be susceptible to be in a vulnerable state where they can leak credentials or potentially something sensitive.
Yeah, absolutely, Ashish. Yeah.
Oh, awesome, dude. I mean, those are most of the, I guess, the technical questions that I had. Obviously, there's a lot more to be covered here, and I'm conscious that I find that there's a lot to absorb in terms of the architecture of AI agent, the top three threats as well. What is one thing that you want people to kind of take away from this in terms of where is the evolution of agent security going now? Like, where because I guess people are aware now that, oh, okay, this is what an AI agent looks like in terms of an architecture. This is where I can do threat modeling. These are the top three threats. Where do you see this heading?
I think the where things are heading, I would say, when we see security, we will be able to see more of the security improvements in three different layers. One is the orchestration layer, where there will be a lot of guardrails which will be introduced, because these orchestration are the central brain that delegate tasks. So that all, because that's what makes the AI agents, right?
Yeah.
So this orchestration layer will have more security capabilities, more like perhaps inspired by Kubernetes in cloud, right? Kubernetes started adding a lot of security features once it became a standard orchestration, right? So similarly, agent orchestration platforms will come up with more security features, so that the things, those the grandma trick, or the setting those, exploiting those bias type of issues from the LLM can be reduced when we look at more from the orchestration layer. And then even the cloud providers and startups are likely will be working on improving these to emphasize security guardrails in this area. Then I would also see more improvements in the data layer, because you know we want to we talked about memory poisoning, and how can we ensure this memory is not poisoned, right? So that boils down to verifying the trust source or the source information. We might be able to see better those detections if those memories indeed poisoned, if the knowledge base is being poisoned. Like ensuring that the entire data hygiene practice will evolve more as a standard. And I would say the other area where things will improve might be on the interface layer, where again, like each company or product will tweak depending on their need, on the context. But then I might see, hey, more from the UI, the user will be able to see more of these underhood actions visibly, so that they can intervene if needed. And and then there will be more transparency. Or hey, ask me before doing XYZ kind of interface, that today, like, not many uh many transparency happens at the layer. So I see more this is going to evolve over the time.
Interesting. I look forward to hearing more about this as it kind of evolves. It's funny, I think when you mentioned the orchestration layer, data layer, that's exactly what I had for the 7-layer Gen AI security models. I'll definitely ask people to check that out. I'll put that in show notes as well. I've got three questions for you as well, by the way,
Yeah.
which are fun questions. First one being, what do you spend most time on, not trying to solve Kubernetes or AI threat model problems?
So when I don't solve all those problems, I'm really solving how can I exploit the MCP servers. I did some research extensively on exploiting attacks like rug pull attacks that are really popular. So I'm more focused on, hey, AI agents are evolving, and how do I secure them? So that's one aspect that I always keep thinking and researching and playing with a lot in my lab environment.
Interesting.
Um,
And second question, what is something that you're proud of that is not on your social media?
I think I'm proud of me doing skydiving,
All right.
which not many people have done, but also it's I mean, many people are still doing, but still I'm very proud of that, given from coming from a security background, assessing the risk, because you are going on a plane and jumping out of the plane, right?
Yeah.
And there is risk involved, killing ourselves. So coming from a security background, I did assess the risk, and then got into the skydiving. It's I like all the like adrenaline rush sports, so that's how every sport I look and do some risk assessment. That's I'm very proud of that. The career that I work is helping me to shape every decision I make in my life, because like most of the safety comes through from here, like risk assessment, like in day to day, right? When we lead the life, like
Yeah.
just keeping all the the buzz, AI security, whatnot, like keeping all the aside, we are all whole bunch of humans. We wake up in the day, do some things that we like, and
Yeah.
then we call it a day, and then we do repeat the same thing. And in the same day, like how are we going to get most value out of it? Like we do a whole bunch of things, and we need to do risk assessment in each of the major step,
Yeah.
because some decisions are like you go into the room and you're stuck in there, right? So
Yeah.
not that
Fair
you
enough.
cannot find another door to get outside. So
Fair.
So yeah.
Well, that's good insight because I was going to ask maybe that a good decision process is also a good segue into my third question, which is what's your favorite cuisine or restaurant that you can share with us?
Oh, my favorite cuisine is, Indian, given I'm from Indian origin. I love biryani, especially like mutton biryani.
Oh, nice.
Uh, and also, I would recommend folks to check out similar food style because obviously biryani is originated from Mughals, and like if we look several countries like Morocco, different Middle Eastern countries where they cook those meats and those biryanis in different ways. So
Yeah.
I love exploring those as well. And I'm pretty open in exploring. And when I look the different ways that they cook meat, like for they have those, they dig into the ground for 20 feet, cook meat in there like mud, lamb, goat, and then they add different flavors to different biryanis that I've seen. So over the time, I really inspire a lot from their culture. So I love exploring these. And I mean, the other cuisines are obviously Italian is my favorite. Where trying
Nice.
different pastas, it's super amazing.
Awesome, man. Thanks for sharing that as well. And where can people connect you with you on the internet to know more about this? And
So
more about AI and obviously and the work you're doing in Kubernetes and otherwise.
I'm active in LinkedIn, so that's the best place to connect. And Twitter as well, not that so active, but LinkedIn will be the best platform to connect and have conversation.
Fair. No, thanks for sharing that, man. Well, that's all what we had time for today. And hopefully everyone got some insights on the whole AI agent as well. But dude, thanks so much for doing this. And I'll look forward to having more of these conversations.
Hey, thanks, Ashish. Thanks for taking your time here.
No problem, man. Thank you for listening or watching this episode of Cloud Security Podcast. This was brought to you by techriot.io. If you are enjoying episodes on cloud security, you can find more episodes like these on cloudsecuritypodcast.tv, our website, or on social media platforms like YouTube, LinkedIn, and Apple Spotify. In case you are interested in learning about AI security as well, do check out our sister podcast called AI Security Podcast, which is available on YouTube, LinkedIn, Spotify, Apple as well, where we talk to other CISOs and practitioners about what's the latest in the world of AI security. Finally, if you're after a newsletter, it just gives you top news and insight from all the experts we talk to at Cloud Security Podcast. You can check that out on cloudsecurity.newsletter.com. I'll see you in the next episode. Peace.